I told this guy to make this video. All right, so this guy over here on this channel, he's reading Ephesians 1:5 and then trying to compare it to Romans 8:23 and say this right here. Let me show you the verses real fast. So Ephesians 1:5, having predestined us to adoption as sons by Jesus Christ himself, according to the good pleasure of his will. So predestined us to adoption. Then you come over here to Romans 8:23, and not only they, but ourselves also, which have the first fruits of the Spirit, even we ourselves groan within ourselves, waiting for the adoption. Okay, I'll just tell you right now, that word right there is not in the Greek. To wit, neither is that one. The redemption of our body. And that's not even, that's almost accurate. Okay, so let's go back here. So after reading those two verses, he concludes this. And it's right here on the screen, so he can't deny what he said. Right here. This adoption in both of those verses as sons is something, and that's a mistranslation by Google, something that Paul, even for believers, is extending to some future date. So the adoption as a son is something that's coming in a future date. It's not now. We're not sons now, he's saying. Okay? But look, kid, let me show you something. Because you can see right here, he's saying the same thing as he did over in Romans. He's talking about the Abba Father and everything. It's the same thing. And because ye are sons, the sia, the Greek word for son, has sent forth the Spirit of God crying, Abba Father. That's the same thing as in Romans 8. So he's wrong right there. The same author. He's saying, be a son in the future. He says, ye are sons. Present tense. Okay, and even John. Behold, what manner of love the Father has bestowed on us, that we should be called sons of God. Therefore the world knoweth not, because he knew him not. Behold, now we are sons of God. I can show you the Greek on that. But instead, we are sons now. Two authors. The author that wrote what he's talking about, those other two verses, and John. We are sons. Now, let me show you something. This is why it's important to learn Greek. Because, well, okay. So the King James Bible was based off this Textus Receptus here. And the king sent a letter to the translators and said, the first thing I want you to do is not translate it accurate to the Greek, but to make it like the bishop's Bible. He wanted a grand Bible with poetic language and all that stuff. And you're going to see some of that right here. And so, you have the standard Bible of the world, for hundreds of years. And then you got all this new stuff coming along. You can't vary from it because you won't sell the Bibles. But just look straight at the Greek and see what's going on. Okay, not mono, that's the mono, same, only, but now even to ourselves, the apoarche. Okay, so apoarche. So, and here's what I'm talking about right here. So that's not the Greek word for fruit. This is what I'm talking about. The King James want a poetic kind of thing. So they're going to put that language in there. Apoarche, it's apoarche. Arche is where we get the word arch or foundation or beginning. And apo means out. So out of the foundation. Okay. the spirit, the pneumatos, the spirit, so pneuma, where we get the word breath, or pneumonia, spirit. Okay, having ourselves in ourselves, and here's coming down, grown. Having ourselves in ourselves grown. Now that's translated grown. Now that's the word that comes from the Greek word stenos. So stenos means narrow or squeezed in all sides. This is the narrow way. So they're translating it grown. It's actually the Greek word for narrow. Ourselves, narrow way. This is the narrow way. This whole thing is the narrow way. The sons of God are on the narrow way, and they're groaning because of the inner man is chastising the outer man, causing him to groan. Okay. Ourselves grown, and then it put in the adoption. Well, there's no the. There's no the there. Grown adoption. Huiothesia. This is the word he doesn't know. You got to understand. So if it translates it, divine adoption as sons, well, that's just not there. That's not even what it says. Like I'm saying, the King James translators have to make this grand language. And this is one word. When it says divine adoption as sons, that's just one word in Greek. It's not divine adoption as sons. It's huios. That's the Greek word huios. And the Greek word tithame means to place. Place son. So it means adopted sons. It's placed sons. You could just say sons, God's children even. God's children. Now what about God's children? And now look here. Even in ourself, stenadzo, placed sons, grown placed sons. In ourselves, grown placed sons, grown as placed sons. The narrow way. The sons are on the narrow way. Okay, now here's the verb. This is a masculine verb. This is a feminine noun. And this is nominative. It's referring back to the subject of us, the ones groaning. The huiothesia, but this is feminine, so it's spiritually what's happening. Okay, so awaiting. Okay, apodekomai. So that's awaiting. It's I don't know how to explain that. You could say waiting. So now what are the sons waiting for? You see, all that stuff in English is not here in the Greek. It's just not. That's why you got to check it. So here's the verb, and what are they awaiting? And it says right here what they are awaiting. Not adoption. It's the adoption ones are awaiting. Not waiting adoption. It's not here. Not waiting adoption. They're waiting. What they're awaiting, the adoption people, awaiting the adoption people. Here's what they're waiting for. It's a Greek word, the. Apolotrusos. Redemption. Translated redemption. The apolotruson. Adoption. The somatos. Soma means body. Here's what they're awaiting. Young man, here's what they're awaiting. It's going to tell you right here. The redemption, the body of us. They're not awaiting place as sons. The place sons are awaiting the redemption, the body of them. Hamon. So, see, he doesn't know Greek. He doesn't even know how to check it. He probably doesn't even know anybody they could call. So all this stuff, this to wit, it's not there. The adoption of the body to wit, it's not there. It's not there. And you got a masculine verb, excuse me. The masculine verb, the nominative, reflecting the nominative of the masculine, a men, with a feminine noun, a thing done, a thing, it's a feminine thing, happened to them. It's the happening, not a verb. It's a noun. And that thing is, and that thing is awaiting the redemption of the body. So he just doesn't know. All he has is English. And I admit the English in the King James is confusing. So here you go. So it's not this adoption as sons is something Paul is extending at a future. It's not a future date. Now, if you had bothered to check these other verses and the Greek, which you don't know, you should learn. You're young. It takes time, man. It takes a long time. Okay? But you should learn. You haven't had enough time on the planet to learn. Sorry. You just haven't. Well, you're probably in your early 30s or something. Okay? You just haven't had enough time. Maybe plus you got 4 kids. All right. But here, you should have checked the other verses and you didn't. And because ye are sons. God hath set forth his spirit, crying Abba Father. It's because they are sons that he set the spirit of adoption on them. To whoop them. He scourges every son he receives. That's why they're crying, Daddy, Daddy, don't beat me. Beating me to straighten up. Mastigoo. It's the Greek word mastigoo. It's the thing they beat Jesus with. Kid, man, you have no clue. You just have no clue. So you should have done a little more checking at least, you know, before you say this stuff, man. This is stupid. This is stupid, man. It's stupid. And so I told you I'd make the video, so there it is. You know, learn Greek, do something. You know, quit. You need to quit preaching, man, until you learn. You know, so you know. Educate yourself. Okay, I want to go back here to show you this verb right here because this is important. So you have here, oh man, I don't got time for this stuff. But just if you go along here, it's the end here that matters. But when the fullness of the time come, God sent forth the Son made of a woman made under the law to redeem them that were under the law, that they, and the word might is not in Greek. It's an aorist subjunctive. It doesn't mean maybe as in might. It's subjunctive to all the other stuff. That receive the adoption. Man, you should just say receive the adoption. Because like I said, all this is one word in Greek. So receive the adoption as sons. Receive the adoption of a son. The adoption son. And because ye are. Now I want to show you that right there. All right, so in order the place sons, and I just went over that. Huio, son, tithame, place. Appa lambano. So apo is out. Apo is out. Lambano is like to reach out and take. So to receive out the adoption. Placed sons. Okay. Because hoiti di este. Este. All right, there it is. All right, so that's the Greek verb estein. It's a being verb, meaning now, are. It's a present indicative. Indicative of being placed as a son. Now are sons. And because you're now a son, Jesus is going to put the hurting on you. That's what that means. And they're away. because you're placed as a son and are a son, blah, blah, blah. So I just want to show you this being verb right here, because it's actually there in Greek. Are. It's a being verb. We are sons, the adopted sons. So I just wanted to add that on here, because just in case there was any doubt that we're not a son now. It literally says we are now. It just says it right there. So the kid don't know what he's talking about.